Alan Wake, Alan Walk, Alan Woke, Alan Wake 2. Game of the year. 10 out of 10. World-class video game. Incredible story, incredible graphics, incredible combat, supers. No. They're lying to you. The shills, the people, they're lying to you. It's an awful game, and you can downvote me or you can spray your opinion out in the comments, but I've played the game, and I've played video games since about 1997, right? This is not a good video game. It's not a good video game. Let me just run you through a few of the things. Okay, number one, it looks nice. It's a very visually clear game, and it runs pretty well on my system, an RTX 3080 and a 5950X. It should work pretty well. It ran fine, and it looks nice. And for me, that's where the positive ends. The game is about you're this FBI agent, Saga Anderson, who, by the way, Saga Anderson was from Quantum Break, and Saga Anderson was a blonde white female, right? She is now inside of Alan Wake, and she is a black FBI agent that can fear nothing. She has no problems being the lead character. She'll walk out into the woods on her own. She'll do puzzles on her own. She won't call for backup. She'll be cheery in the face of danger. The whole thing screams this push for empowerment and strong female lead, where that's okay, but we've already had this character kind of drawn out and mapped out, so changing the character just feels a bit ridiculous, and we know why that's done, but we can't talk about that on YouTube. Now, let's forget all of that, and let's just get into the gameplay. Just straight up bad. There are scenes where you're walking through, you're sort of walking through this dimly lit horror kind of area. There's no music, there's no atmosphere, there's nothing going on. There's nothing going on. There's no music, no horror, no atmosphere. You have these shadows that kind of, you can just stand next to them and they do nothing. They just do nothing. Occasionally, if you poke them enough, they might jump at you, and then you press the right bumper and you can blind them with your torch. And there's also probably a moment that you might be seeing on screen, if I can be bothered to scroll through 6 hours of boring footage, where I'm just spamming left bumper the whole way throughout the level, and I'm just dodging every single ghost. You've got this pistol that is just basically don't really do much. You're just a bullet sponge. The enemies are bullet sponges, and the combat don't feel smooth. It doesn't feel exciting. It's got unrealistic characters. The puzzle works for children, which we can get into. Again, the combat is really boring, and the most irritating thing about this is you're an FBI agent trying to solve a case, right? You're trying to solve this case, and you can't fail anything. You get dragged into this area where you're on a storyboard. So something happens in the game, and then it pops up on the storyboard. So you do the storyboard, right? You do the storyboard, it pops up, you go into your mind palace, and you start to sort the clues, but you're not sorting the clues. You're not trying to figure out, this board isn't empty. This board isn't empty and you're trying to place them. It will pop up like, okay, murder weapon, and then the card will pop up, and the only slot it will go on is the murder weapon. So whether you think the murder weapon was an axe or the murder weapon was a piece of paper, it doesn't matter. You're just putting them where the game tells you to. So you're not solving anything. You're just keep spamming the A button until everything sticks into place, and you can close your eyes and you'll never fail it. And then once that's done and everything's in place, it's like brilliant, case solved, and then things happen in the world. The reason this is a problem, and the reason why this game's pretty bloody bad, and it's just modern standards, how this is game of the year I have no idea. But when you go into the world, there was an area where I wandered around off the beaten track, and I looked in all this, it was like a corrugated iron kind of vessel, whatever you want to call it, and I was looking around in it and there was nothing going on, but it seemed a big area, and I was like, there's got to be something here I'm missing. Nothing was happening. Then all of a sudden I remembered, oh, maybe I need to load the storyboard up. So I press the back button, go on the storyboard. Storyboard pops up, press the A button 50 times. And then when I went back into that building, all of a sudden there was the tills were opening, clues could be picked up. There was a deer that jumped past me. There was a couple of enemies, but nothing is in the game or kind of loaded or anything unless you've got to the area of the story and you've pressed the correct storyboard. So there's no reason to explore or move anywhere until you've just basically spammed the storyboard, which you're going to spend most of your time in.
I wonder how much money they spent on hiring somebody to edit and build and model a brush that clips through the floor and she's not actually sweeping up any rubbish. Yo, it's Asmongold. This is Asmongold if he actually accepted his fate.
After about 3 or 4 hours of walking and walking and walking and walking with no enemies, you eventually get to play as Alan Wake. Now, it's not really a spoiler, but pretty much this is how it goes. They're looking for Alan Wake, and he turns up after 13 years, and he's been found. The police officers stand there in silence next to each other, T-posed. They're just T-posed, stood next to each other saying nothing. And then they say, oh, we should go get the car and take Alan. They're on the beach, T-posed like this. Then I wander through an entire forest, jungle. I go miles out. I go da-da-da. Bear in mind, there's just been a massive murder. Someone's had the heart ripped out of the chest. And she's just walking along, chatting to herself, super cheery. Like, the lines in the game, they don't fit. They just don't fit. There was one, the guy's like one of the cops is like, oh, this guy's just had his heart ripped out, there's a cult going around. And then she's like, oh, it seems like a really nice evening, we should go for a walk in the woods tonight, like completely unironically. And he's like, well, there's just been a murder, that's pretty scary. She's like, well, I'm not scared, I'm gonna go on a walk on my own. They just say stuff that is completely unrealistic, and it's pushing this, I'm a boss girl and nothing can ever faze me and I'm going to do everything. And she does do everything. To sum up how she does everything, she's in the room with this the very first character that gets killed, right? So you're in the room, it's very early on in the game, and the body's on the table. Now, one of the guys isn't there. So not only is she an FBI agent and she can figure out all the clues, one of the brilliant techniques she does is she holds up the clue, and if you press the A button, she can just imagine. She goes into this like spiritual world and she can just imagine everything, and she imagines the answer, and then she'll go, well, the ghost will be appearing, and then she'll go, oh, I know, the location of this whatever symbol is in this location. She just knows it, but only for certain things. She can visualize certain things, but not everything. And it's just, yeah. So she knows everything, she can do everything. And to sum up how she can do everything, she just decides to do an autopsy. She just does a full autopsy on this guy, because the coroner isn't there. So she just does a full autopsy with no gloves. And then she takes the body parts like the heart with no gloves on and she just does the full autopsy. And then she's like, come on guys, right, we've solved that, let's go do this next thing. Then all of a sudden the dude pops up alive, shoots and strangles and kills everyone. She manages to escape, and she's like, well, I wonder where he went. Let's go and find him. And then we wander throughout the woods hunting him, and whilst we're in the woods hunting this dude, there's no atmosphere, there's no music, there's nothing spooky going on. She's just having a chat to her daughter on the phone about what she's watching on TV, and is she okay, and oh, I've got to go now because I've lost reception, I'm hunting a demon in the upside down world from Stranger Things because everything's red. Like, it's utter crap. It's we've got to a point where it's almost like we're not allowed to show emotion because that's weakness, and whoa, a woman can't be weak. Well, let me tell you, the bloke should be weak, the woman should be weak. If you've just watched your cop family be murdered and there's a monster and you're in a demon world, I'd be scared, everyone would be scared, but these characters are not scared in any single way. and they just wander off. Anyway, we get to Alan Wake, and Alan Wake's side of the story is a little bit better. You can chop and change the world with this light tool. So if you take a light, the door might open, you then go in the door, swap the light back, and then that might open up a new corridor or whatever. But again, you're walking around a completely dead, empty world. And to sum it up, I'm on the stairway and a guy's T-posed and he's humming, right? He'll never ever say anything until you walk up to him. He can be in his face dancing, and he'll just be humming away. And then you might kill a monster, and there might be one moment where there's a bit of music, and there's a monster, and they're all going, Alan, Alan. That's all they ever seem to say, Alan. And then you kill the monster, and the music stops. If you then leave the area and come back to the area where the monster was, as you get into that area, the music starts. It's just basically like coded. When you reach this point on the map, music starts. It doesn't actually matter that you've cleared the area. It's just like, ooh. So like it completely ruins all of the tension and everything. It's one of the most boring things I've ever played. Genuinely. And weirdly, I think we had about 10-15 people watching me play it, and normally people don't really comment on gameplay because I'm a small streamer, and you know, people are just there just to chat with me and whatever, and the gameplay's secondary. But they were actually all saying, God, this is so boring, this is absolutely terrible and boring. And so we've just ended up giving up, and I've played it about 6 hours, and I can't recommend it. I have no idea what the critics are thinking. I have no idea what the shills are thinking with this game. It is total modern garbage. It is utterly awful as a game. Don't waste your money on it. Unless you like walking simulators that look good, and you can completely turn your brain off in every single capacity. Even the puzzles are like, oh, we don't know the code to this door, and then you'll look up and the code will be in front of you. Like, unless you're just really, really, really bored and it's on sale for like 5 to 10 quid, don't waste your money. This review is just my opinion. I try to be honest. I always am honest. I cut through all the nonsense and the noise. I give my own opinion. You can decide whether I'm right or wrong. But I don't like the game.
Hello? Anyone there?
Why would you not just pick up the radio? Why would you shout to the radio on the floor? Hello? Hello? Is there anyone there? Just fucking pick it up, mate. He's not going to hear you, is he?